Development Center, and I'm a business associate here at the SBDC. Alrighty, so let's get this started. If you're new to the SBDC, we are the Small Business Development Center. We are a grant-funded program funded by the SBA and the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development here in the state of California, also known as GoBiz. And we help small businesses start and grow in two ways: through free one-on-one consulting and free virtual trainings just like this one. And our consultants help in a variety of different ways, from starting a business to licenses and permits just like this, funding, managing a business, marketing, government contracting, and much more. So if you are looking to get help with your small business after this webinar, you can give us a call. If you are a registrant on Zoom, or if you're already a client, you can give us a call and we will set you up with our consultant, Mark Hicks. And we'll set you up with him as soon as possible via Zoom, in person, however is most convenient for you. And we'll actually throw out the link to register if you're not already a client, and the phone number to give us a call. But you can meet with Mark. He is a business consultant here. He's also a professor of management here at the University of La Verne. He's also started his own healthcare business and worked in that business for about 20 years. So he does a lot for us here, and we will set you up with him to get your business started. If you are not registered and you are watching this from, say, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, we'll throw out our sign up link, lavernesbdc.org/new client, and you can sign up as a client so you can set up an appointment to meet with Mark. If you're watching this on Facebook, you're probably watching this from a bunch of different pages that we're partnering with our chambers, La Verne, San Dimas, Glendora, Azusa, all of our different chambers. So shout out to them for making that happen and getting this message out. But if you have any questions on Zoom, throw them down into the Q&A. We'll send out resources in the chat. And then if you're watching this online, we'll throw out those things in the chat, in the comments as well. And then if you have any questions, you can throw those down in the comments and we'll get to those later in the broadcast. But for now, let's get started. So the biggest thing that we actually run into when a lot of people are looking to start up their business is they filed a certain permit or license or something, and they don't know what to do next. And for a lot of people, they'll file, say, like a seller's permit in their own name, but then want to use a business name, and things get messy after that. So if you don't take anything else from this webinar, we'll talk about what's called the pathway to startup, basically all the licenses and permits in the order of operations that we kind of help clients with. So actually, let's go through that real quick. It's only a few sections. So the first thing that you would want to do is to do entity formation, or basically setting up how the business is going to be set up. Sole proprietorship, LLC, corporation, stuff like that. And we'll get into those resources a little bit later. After you form the entity, you may want to register an EIN. There are certain entities that you'll have to do that, but you can do that with the IRS, and we'll get into that a little bit later as well. For most businesses, they are going to be, say, retailers. So a seller's permit or a resale certificate might be something that you would want to do. We'll get into that a little bit later as well, but that's if you want to sell products and things like that and charge tax to the end user. If you're not a reseller, then you may be a service business, in which case a specialty license might be something that you would need to do, and we'll get into the specialty licenses and what that may apply to you. And then finally is going to be the business license, and that's going to be the place where your business is going to be located. So before we get into any of this, I do want to make a disclaimer. All of this stuff is going to be informational, not legal advice, not anything like that. However, we do have a lot of resources. We point to a lot of different agencies. So everything we throw down into the chat and into the comments, you'll be able to actually reference to get more information on how to file a specific license, or more information about whatever you need to file, license, permit, or anything else like that. But let's get to the first section, which is entity formation. Now, as I said before, entity formation is how the business is going to be set up. You probably have seen a lot of these, or at least heard of a lot of these things. Let's run through these real quick, and we'll get to the next section. So sole proprietorship, or sole proprietor, is the most basic one. It is the easiest one to basically start. It's one person, and you are the business. There's no limit on personal liability. So if anybody comes after you through any kind of litigation, they're going to be suing you because you are the business. And so also there is what's called pass-through taxation, which means you are going to be filing taxes for your business on your personal tax return. And then you will be filing a DPA, which we'll get into a little bit later. But then general partnership is going to be the same thing as the sole proprietorship, except it's going to be at least two people. Same thing, there's no liability. There's no limit on the liability of the general partners, so you too are the business. Again, pass-through taxation on the business, so you'll be filing taxes on your own personal tax returns. And you may want to either create a general partnership agreement or have a lawyer do it for you if you're not comfortable with creating those things. And then you'll be signing on local filings and things for property that the business owns as a partnership. Next thing is going to be a limited partnership. So limited partnership is really kind of an obscure type of business entity. You don't see it too often. But for this one, there's a limited partner and a general partner. Limited partner gets the liability protection. General partner doesn't. Again, same thing. You will do taxes on your individual tax returns. And there is a partnership certificate and a partnership agreement. And so you'll file the certificate with the Secretary of State. And a limited partnership agreement is basically how the partnership will work. And you may want to get a lawyer to kind of draft those things if you're not comfortable doing it yourself. Next thing is going to be the LLC. Now, this is when we get into actual, what's called legal entities. These are separate from the actual owner of the business. With the LLC, the owners are now called members. There's no limit on the amount of members for the LLC, but all the members get liability protection. And with the LLC, you can get pass-through taxation depending on how it's taxed. You can kind of choose that. And for the LLC, you're going to be forming the articles of an organization. To form the LLC, that's going to be done with the Secretary of State. And there may be an operating agreement to how the business is going to be run. Again, you can use a lawyer to kind of put that together if you are not comfortable with that yourself. Let's skip the S Corp because the C Corp they're pretty much the same thing, except the S Corp has one additional step that we'll kind of get into. So a corporation, again, is a separate legal entity. The owners are now called shareholders. So if you think of something like Disney or Walmart, if you own a share of the stock, you have some kind of ownership in the business, maybe minute, but you kind of still own the business. So there are different classes of stock and things like that. There's no personal liability when it comes to the shareholders. The only thing you may want to kind of understand is that there might be double taxation. So you may be taxed at the corporate level, which I believe is about 8% or so. And then you're taxed at the personal level once you get money from the business. So there's a lot of things that go into this. It may be kind of complex, but you do get a lot of flexibility when it comes to the law. So you'll have to file articles of incorporation this time. There's some bylaws and board resolutions or meeting minutes that you'll have to take care of, stock certificates, ledgers, and things like that to kind of to manage the stock sale of the business. So again, if you're not comfortable with doing a lot of this stuff, because we can help you with this, a lawyer may be able to do this, but for a fee. And it may be a hefty fee depending on how complex the corporation can be. And our final one is going to be the S Corp, which is very similar to the C Corp, except there's one little step and a couple of different rules. So with the S Corp, you're going to be filing one additional form, and that's going to be an IRS election for an S Corp. Once you file that, exactly the same thing as the C Corp, you do the articles of incorporation, bylaws, and all the other stuff, and then you file that extra election, and you are now considered an S Corp. And so what that means, the rules do change. There's a limit on the shareholders of 100 shareholders, and then you do get a form of pass-through taxation. In which case you are now considered an employee. So there may be some tax savings that you may want to talk to an accountant and a lawyer to get that set up for you, but there may be an advantage for you for the business. But if you do want to get more information on these, we did host a forms of ownership webinar with a representative from the Franchise Tax Board. So we'll actually throw that down in the chat so you can take a look at that to get more information about those particular entity formations or forms of ownership. But that should be it for now for forms of ownership. I'm going to pause real quick to see if we have any questions. I know I just threw a lot out at you. If anybody has any questions on the forms of ownership, we do want to make sure that you understand those things before we move on, because things are going to get a little interesting. But Sophia, do we have any questions?
Currently, we don't have any questions, but I'd just like to remind all our attendees, please use the Q&A and we'd be happy to address your questions. Thank you.
All righty, fair enough. We will press on. All righty, so let's deviate one thing, we'll digress. We actually do help a lot of small businesses with identifying licenses and permits that they might need. We do have a tool which we'll go into, but the first thing that we actually need is a little bit of information about the business, where you're located, what kind of business or industry you're going to be in, and how it's going to be set up. So that's basically the information that we'll need. A couple other questions, but that's the basic information that we'll need to kind of identify what kind of permits, licenses, because those will determine how the business is set up, will determine what licenses and permits you may need. So actually, let's go through a tool that we have, and let's take a look at how we can do that. So here is our business license tool. And what we do is we basically put your information into the tool and we get an entire report of licenses and permits. So let's run through this real quick. It's super easy, and we'll actually get to see what kind of licenses and permits you will actually get. and how we help small businesses. So first thing is where you're located. So we're going to be at 2180. So 3rd Street here in Laverne. It already comes up for us right here. California, 91750. And we are in LA County. And so this is the first step. So what's our industry? I'm kind of thinking let's consider ourselves a consultant and maybe let's do some marketing. I like marketing. I do stuff like that. So let's do that. What type of business are we going to set up as? We could do it as a sole proprietorship, LLC. Let's do an LLC. And then where is the business going to be set up in? Will you do California? And how far along are you in the process? Most of our small businesses will come to us and they're in the planning stages. So we'll do the same thing. And will you be registering under an FBN or a DBA? Most of the time when you file an LLC, you already have a business name, so you can do that. We'll keep the business name we file for the Secretary of State and the LLC, so we'll put no. And then we'll be a home-based business. And then what is the goal for the business? We wanted to do it as a full-time business, so we'll do that. Will we be having W-2 employees in the next 6 months? Probably not. So we'll be a single member LLC, solopreneur. And then we have some advertisement stuff. This is how they pay for it. Do I want to speak to somebody about a bank account? No, I already have somebody in mind. Do I want to know about domain names or credit cards or something like that? No, not the moment, so we'll skip. Alrighty, so here's the information that we put in. Here's our address, industry, type of entity, state, planning stages. So we'll confirm. And we'll view the report. And so what we'll do is most of the time we'll send this report to the client. But for now, we get it right here. So there's going to be a few different things that we want to take a look at. We'll need to register an EIN. Okay, we kind of already figured that. There may be a seller's permit that we have to do. And a local business license that we'll have to do. Again, there's something that we'll have to do with the Secretary of State to form the LLC. All of these tools and things for air licenses and permits aren't they're not perfect. So if you get something from, say, CalGold, which is another tool that we can actually look at. Let's actually take a look at that. CalGold is another tool that we like to use, or that we can use, and you can use this as well through the state of California and GoBiz. We can take a look at, so we'll do Laverne. Same thing, Laverne, and then this is other easy information, so we'll do say marketing, consulting services. So this is even more basic information, but you could do this yourself. And basically you have another list of different licenses and permits you might need. if you were to do this yourself, and if you were to look up the licenses and permits you need, if you want to schedule an appointment to meet with Mark or one of our consultants here, you can actually print this out or PDF this, bring it to the meeting, and then they will help you identify what licenses and permits you're going to need for your business to get you started up. We really aim to make sure that you know what you need to get started, even in the planning stages. So those are the two different tools that we can help you with to get started up. But that's pretty much it. Those are the tools that we help small businesses use so that they can get started up. But let's go over some most common licenses and permits that you might need for your business. Because a lot of people may understand a lot of this stuff, but they may not know how easy and common a lot of these things are. So let's go over the 6 most common ones, which the first one is going to be the FBN, fictitious business name, or DBA, as sometimes it's called. It is a form if you want to start up as a sole proprietorship, again, which is the easiest one to do. This is what you would use to file if you were going to be starting up a business in something other than your name. And you would do this in the county that the business is going to be located in. So for LA County, there's an office in Norwalk that we would file with. And basically, you would file that. It's good for 5 years, and then you have to publish it in the newspaper that they also give you a list of, so that you can figure out what newspaper for your budget and things like that. But we actually do have a video on this, step by step, basically made by Sean as he files the DBA. So if you want to take a look at that, he does go over the forms that you're going to need, the basic process of it. I know things have changed a little bit, but the basic process, what you'll need to file, how to publish it, and things like that. He goes over everything. It's on our YouTube channel, and then we can throw that out in the chat so you can take a look at it and get an idea of what's going to be entailed when you want to start a sole proprietorship. But the next thing is going to be the EIN. I mentioned the EIN before on the pathway to startup. EIN is going to be an employer identification number. It's what you're going to need if you want to file taxes. Now, you don't have to use an EIN. You can use your social security number for filing taxes if you're a sole proprietorship or general partnership or anything that requires pass-through taxation. But if you're a legal entity, an EIN is almost always necessary. So corporations, LLCs, things like that. You can take a look at a video that we actually did make on this as well on our blog and on our YouTube channel. Basically goes over when you would need an EIN, how to file one. This is for free. You can file it with the IRS. It's an all online application for free. Goes through things step by step and explains how what information you're going to need and how to actually file it online. So the next thing is going to be the state seller's permit. So if you're looking to sell any kind of physical items or physical products, you would need to get a state seller's permit. So this is done through the CDTFA, which is the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration. Again, this is an online form. And again, we did do a video on this as well on our YouTube channel. And it basically goes over how to fill out the form and in what cases you would need to have a seller's permit, and then how to charge sales tax. The Tax and Fee Administration has a really interesting chart that is in the video about when you would need to charge tax and how you would actually do that. So say an auto repair company would want to would need to charge tax on certain things. So like the oil filter, maybe the oil, and then any kind of repair bits and bobs, so like belts and things like that, they may need to charge tax on those things, but not on the service of actually installing them. So it has an entire list of how you would do that, scenarios and things on the CDTFA. So you can take a look at that in the video. And then there's a link to it also, so that you can take a look at the information for yourself. And the next thing is going to be sales tax or state tax registration. So if you are a business here in the state of California, you need to register to get a tax registration number. So just like the federal government has a federal EIN, the state government will have a state EIN. And we do have a video on basically hiring employees. It goes over that particular application, and it actually has a link to it so that you can see how to register for state tax as a business. So you would get a state tax number, and then when you file taxes, you can file them separately under that state tax registration number. But again, we do have a video on that we can throw down into the chat and into the comments so that you can actually take a look at that with, I believe it is with the EDD. Next thing is going to be the state payroll withholding. So this is specifically if you have employees. If you have employees, you're going to have to set yourself up as an employer. Once you hire employees, you'll need to set them up so you can start taking payroll taxes from their checks. Again, this is on our hiring employees video, so we can throw that down there, and basically shows you the process of how to set yourself up as a business in California with the state tax registration. Again, I already talked about that, and as an employer for employees, and how to register employees so that they can keep track of what payroll taxes you're taking from the check, and then actually how to kind of determine those withholdings. There's a specific form that you would need to have your employees fill out so that they can determine those things. And then finally, the city business license. This is usually the last step that you do before you get like a bank account and some other things. But this is required for the city the business is going to be located in. So if you have a storefront right here, just like in downtown Laverne, you would need to file a business license so you can operate. Same thing if you were a home-based business. Now there's a couple of different things that you need to understand about the city business license. So for a home-based business, and depending on where the city is, you may need to fill out the city business license, and then there may be a home occupation permit that is included. It's usually wrapped up in that license application, but basically gives you rules and allows the city to know if you're running a business from your home. Usually you can't have any signage, or you can't have any customer traffic and things like that. But that's usually wrapped up with that city business license for the home occupancy permit. If you were a storefront, commercial location, there may be some zoning involved with the planning department, renovations and things like that, a burglar permits, fire inspection, things like that. So depending on what kind of business you're looking to start, that city business license may be very easy to fill out, or it may get very complicated depending on what the business does, what you store in the business. So those are some things that you may need to take into account when you start working on your business or figuring out what licenses and permits you're going to need. But again, we do have a video on that that we can throw out in the chat so that you can kind of get an idea of what is involved with the city business license. And once you get a city business license, you can get a business bank account, which we do have a video on that as well on our YouTube channel. And that's pretty much it. Once you get the city business license and all the other licenses beforehand, you can start selling and start running your business. But there may be some other things beforehand that you'll need to kind of take care of. And that's when we get into specialty permits. Now, specialty permits are kind of the ancillary permits that you may need to start up a business. So let's go over a few things that you might need that you may not have thought about when you're thinking about starting a business. One of the first things, one of the first specialty permits you might need are health permits, specifically with like restaurants, spas, tattoo parlors. Most of these are going to be done through the county where the business is going to be located. And actually, we can take a look at what those might be. So right here is the Public Health Department for LA County. And this is what you would use if you were going to file for a particular type of, say, health permit. So right here where it says body art, this would be like tattoo parlors or piercing, body piercing, food vending, things like that. These are things you want to take a look at to make sure that you fall under this. And basically, this is going to be to make sure that your business is running, sterilization or the correct hygiene procedures for implements. But also, if you're a restaurant, that little letter that you see on the window to make sure that the restaurant is clean enough and is hygienic enough to stay open. Otherwise, the county may shut you down. Next thing is going to be food safety certifications. So if you are a restaurant and you have employees who are preparing food, if you're a bakery who's preparing food, if you're a cottage food business, you'll need to have a certification that says you understand and you have the knowledge and you know the procedures of preparing specific types of food to keep your customers safe. So let's take a look at that. That's also through the Department of Health. And they have food handler information. And so there's some resources that you can kind of take a look at for how to get certified, where to get certified, what things you're going to need, and so that you can actually get that certification for food handlers, the food handlers card, so that you can stay open. Next thing is going to be alcohol beverages. It's an alcohol beverage control license or ABC license that we like to talk about here. It's going to be for bars, distilleries, restaurants, or convenience stores, any place that's actually serving alcohol. And this one gets kind of daunting because there's a lot of different licenses, different kinds of licenses depending on what kind of alcohol you're serving, where you're serving it, who can buy it, things like that. So let's take a look at that one. So the alcohol beverage control organization, let's take a look at this. So the Department of Alcohol Beverage Control has a list of different types of licenses. So if you're not sure what kind of license you need, you can kind of take a look at this and maybe figure out what they are. If you have no idea, if you need more help with that, you could actually contact the nearest district office, which here in this part of the San Gabriel Valley is going to be in Monrovia. And so you can call them or contact them. They can give you the licenses that you're going to need, all the forms you're going to need to fill out, and even how much you might need to pay to actually apply for the license. I do know that those fees could get pretty steep. Actually, let's take a look at that real quick because application fees, here we go. So depending on what kind of license, you may need to have these kinds of fees. And if you're a new business who's never applied for a license before, not what's called a transfer, where you bought it from somebody, you have to transfer the license to your business name. Application fee for a first time could be $17,000. So you have to understand those costs, especially if you're talking to Mark or Sean, one of our other consultants, about planning out the business. You have to understand what that cost might be, because you may have to plan that for funding or anything else, so you can understand how or if you need that license right now. Otherwise, like I said, we do have our video and our actual blog post on how to get an ABC license. So like I said, it goes over a lot of different things, actual licenses, the process, and all of this stuff is taken from the ABC, the Department of Alcohol Beverage Control, and basically puts it into a really nice kind of easy to understand package for people to understand what the process is. Because a lot of people will say it's too daunting, it's crazy. This makes it really, really easy to understand, at least get an idea of what is going to be involved. But the next one is going to be contractors. So if you're looking to be a regular contractor, general contractor, or any kind of trade, you will probably need a contractor's license, so you can basically do any kind of jobs here in the state of California. Let's take a look at this one, because this one actually is about as daunting as the ABC license. There are a bunch of different contractor's licenses. So you can be a general engineering contractor, which is an A license, general contractor, which is a B license, remodeling, or you can be any one of the 40, 50 odd different types of licensed trades. I do know that because I used to work for a HVAC company, C20 is going to be for air conditioning. And then there are other licenses besides these, which are called the specialty ones. And these are D licenses. So there's even more, but they move them around a lot. So if you want to know, does your specific trade need a license, you can take a look at this list. And if you want to get into a workshop that you want to get into getting a contractor's license, you don't know what the process is, you want to get it into a test or something, what do I need that's required to actually apply for the test? They do have a lot of workshops and presentations. So the next one is going to be on March 3rd, if you're watching this video live. So they always put out stuff on YouTube as well. So if you want to get more information, you can go to the CSLB and take a look at what resources they have so that you can apply for your contractor's license. Handymen are a little bit different. You don't need a license, but you can have a license for that. So if you want to do something like being a handyman, you can actually take a look at the CSLB, and they do make that distinction so you can understand whether or not you need a license to do certain things and what those rules might be. But the next thing, oops, went too far. But the next thing is going to be professionals. So a professional is basically anybody who is under the professional code. For the most part, professionals are going to be doctors, lawyers, architects, accountants, and their licenses are going to be based on the board that runs or governs their particular profession. So for the most part, if you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be under the medical board in the state of California. And so you would go here if you're going to want to get a license to be a doctor here in the state. Same thing with a lawyer. With a lawyer, you're going to be under the state bar. Same thing with the architect, you're the architectural board. There's a board of accountancy. There is a department of insurance for insurance agents and a department of real estate for real estate agents. And so if you fall under most or any one of these different kind of professionals, or if you fall under any of these different kinds of businesses, then you may need to apply for a license to operate as a professional here in the state of California. But again, a lot of those links and resources will be in the chat, and we'll also send them out at the end of the webinar so you can take a look to see what you might need as far as being a professional. Again, too far. Last one is going to be an occupational license. Now, we really run into a lot of we don't really run into a lot of occupational licenses. The most common one is going to be a cosmetology license. So there may be, I believe, a physical therapist, maybe an occupational license. That's not necessarily a professional, but it's a specific license that you'll actually need. Most common one that we, like I said, that we run into is going to be cosmetology license. So hair salons, nail salons, barbers, estheticians, you may need a license for yourself to operate as that particular profession or occupation. So actually, let's take a look at this, because we did do a blog post on this to open up a barber shop or a salon. And one of the things that we actually do talk about is you need to be licensed before you actually open up a particular location. And so how you get licensed is going to be through the Department of Consumer Affairs and the Board of Barbering and Cosmetology. And so what you'll do is, if you were looking to become a barber or a cosmetologist or esthetician or anything else like that, if you didn't already know, you can get your license here, or you can take an examination to get licensed. And basically what you do is it shows the minimum proficiency in actual, barbering, styling, how to use different kinds of chemicals and things like that. Actually, Sophia is a licensed cosmetologist. She would know more than I do on this particular thing, but this is the test. And if you would want to be an actual cosmetologist, you do have to get licensed. And if you were looking to open up your own little barbershop or hair salon, this is one of the steps into opening up your own business. So again, we do have a blog post. We do have a video on this. We'll throw that down into the chat as well and into the comments, so that you'll be able to understand what goes into those things. But as we're rounding the corner, this is going to be one of the last things that we're going to be talking about. If you don't see, or if we didn't talk about your type of business, don't worry. There's a lot of different types of businesses here in the state of California, and there is another resource through the state, through the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development and the California Office of Small Business Advocate. They have what are called quick start guides for the most common types of businesses here in the state. So let's take a look at those. So if you were looking to start any kind of business that is on this list, they have these quick start guides that will allow you, give you the most at-hand information, I should say. So let's, if you want to do auto repair, for example, you can download this quick start guide. It shows you that you'll need a auto repair license. If you want to set up with yourself with the Secretary of State, so for a corporation, LLC, not necessarily for a sole proprietorship, because we already talked about that with the FBN. Income taxes, seller's permit, we already talked about that. and how you would be able to charge for tax on those types of things. Wages and hours if you have employees, workers' comp if you have employees, how to set yourself up as a employer if you have employees, getting an EIN, city business license. So a lot of the stuff that we already talked about are in these quick start guides. And so a lot of this stuff is, the most accurate information, zoning and building permits. And if you do need help, because GoBiz is our friends, you can go to the local small business development center like ours here, and you can ask us, and we will be more than happy to help you with licensing and permitting to start your business. And as I mentioned before, we have the CalGold license and permit tool. If you want to kind of check on your own, you can download that report and bring it to your consultant, and then they will help you find those licenses and permits as well for your type of business. I do want to let you know there is one business on this list that we will not be able to help you with because we are a federally funded program, and that's going to be the cannabis operations. We don't do anything like that here. CBD, hemp, cannabis, anything else like that, we will not be able to help you with that. But there are tons of different resources online and through the state. If you were looking to go that way, they may have some resources for you as well. But hands off, we don't do any of that kind of stuff here. But otherwise, bunch of different quick start guides for starting a business if we haven't talked about your kind of business in this webinar. But that is pretty much it for today. I do want to remind you that if you are a registrant in this webinar and you are viewing us on Zoom, you can give us a call, 909-448-1567. Once this webinar ends, give us a call and we will schedule an appointment with Mark or any other available consultant to help you with licensing or permitting or starting the business planning, funding, things like that. We can help you get that going. If you are not a client yet, we can throw out the link to sign up as a client, and then we'll get a notification and we'll give you a call to schedule an appointment. And you can do that at lavernespdc.org/new client. Sign up only takes about 10 minutes. And then, like I said, we'll get a notification. We'll call you to schedule an appointment as soon as possible to get you started with your business or any other help that you might need. But after that, we are pretty much done with the presentation. So let me turn it over to Sophia. And do we have any questions?
Yes, Josh, we do have a couple questions. The first one is the new EIN needed for every business?
If you need an EIN for your business, then yes. So every new business you'll need to file taxes for. And so you would need to have a separate EIN if you have multiple businesses like that. So yes.
All right. And our second question comes from the San Dimas Chamber Facebook page. Shauna is asking, do you have a video on YouTube with information on how to obtain a cottage food license / permit?
Yes, we do have one on a cottage food license or permits. It is on our website or on our blog. Let me see. I was gonna say we can throw it down in the chat, but let's do it in real time. So we go hotspot. If I search here. So cottage food, and it's right here. So cottage food license, we can share that, get link, and we'll throw it down in the chat right there. There you go. We'll throw that out to everyone.
And I'll make sure to put it in the Sandy Miss Chamber
Yes.
Facebook.
Throw it out to everybody. Yes, we do. If you want to know, we do have our blog here. Our blog has a bunch of different resources, not only on licenses and permits, but also on starting a business, funding a business, marketing. We have a bunch of different resources. So if you want, you can subscribe to our blog and you get an email every week on a new topic, starting, funding, anything else like that. And then every one of our videos, or most of our videos, have a blog post. So you can either have this blog post here, or you can view the video and then get all the resources there. So we throw out a lot of different resources all the time on different subjects and topics for people to start and grow a business.
And we will be sending out a follow-up email with the recording, the slides, all the links mentioned. Thank you, Josh. That's all.
Keep them coming.
All the questions we have for now, I'll go ahead and address them through chat. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, because I was gonna say we can wait a couple of minutes. As I mentioned, like I said, we do have a lot of links and resources for just about every kind of licenses or permit. We have stuff on LLCs that we can throw out. The DBA, we are working on something for C Corps, S Corps, and how to start specific kinds of businesses. So like a handyman business or restaurants and things like that. We're actively working on, or at least I'm actively working on, a lot of different blog posts for how to start specific types of businesses, how to get certain types of licenses and permits. So again, if you want to get more information, get updated on that, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can subscribe to our blog. Follow us on Facebook or LinkedIn. We post stuff all the time, every week, something that we've either put out recently or in the past. You can always get resources for everything that we do. But otherwise, if there are no other questions, actually, do we have any other questions?
We do have one question.
Sure.
Do you have a graphic design resources that work on a logo and business name design?
Graphic design resources. Other than we do use Canva. Canva is a free account. We actually do have a blog post on that, how to use Canva for your business. Canva is a free account. You can sign up for free. You do get some templates and things to create flyers, social media posts, and things like that. Or you can upgrade to the pro account and get even more stuff and schedule posts and things like that. If you're not comfortable with doing it yourself, we do have blog posts with Sean about whether or not you should hire it out, and what resources might be. So like Upwork or Fiverr or something like that. That may be something that you want to kind of invest in when it comes to getting somebody to do it for you, as far as other than doing it yourself. So, but anything else?
No, that's all the questions we have for now. Thank you.
Okay. Well, if there are no other questions, that pretty much concludes our presentation for today. We actually do have an upcoming webinar on funding your small business. We're going to be talking with a representative from CDC Small Business Finance, and our director, Sean, will talk about how to fund your small business as a startup or as a existing business, and then how to get a small business loan. But otherwise, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on March 23rd for our next webinar.